Nikki, we all know there's going to be a little bit of a rocky road ahead. And whenever that happens, redundancies sort of end up swirling around. As a business owner, is there anything I can do now that lessens the chances of me having to do redundancies later?
I think it's really important to try and avoid redundancies wherever possible for various reasons, but I think primarily it's demotivating for staff members. Even the ones that you're not making redundant, they will still feel demotivated because, one, they might worry about, are they going to be the ones made redundant? Or are they going to be worrying about, oh, I'm going to end up having to do all the work of the people that are being made redundant? So there's rarely a good scenario that comes out from redundancies. But these are 8 tips to try and avoid having any recession rounds. So the first one is produce a 2-year resourcing plan. So the purpose of that is so that you can look in the future with the best information that you've got at the moment of what resources are you going to need. So if there are areas where you are going to need more people, but you're going to need less people, can they switch over, etc. So, because what I've seen before, especially in very large businesses, is where they blindly go, right, I need to make 5% redundancies, get rid of some people, and then the next minute they need to hire some people. And then that's just really expensive and illogical. So it's better to have a proper plan. Second, which sort of falls into the resourcing plan, if you is to make it really easy for staff that you've got. If there's some areas that aren't as busy in some areas of business than other, make sure that it's really easy to transition between those areas. So it's having communication between them, making sure that they can see a career path between them. Or it may be easy as simple as being able to do secondments between them. So, for example, in accountancy practice, December and January are often extremely busy for the personal tax department. Second people from perhaps, I don't know, perhaps the audit team may not have so many audits at that point. Ours does, but other teams might not, so they might have the option to second for a small period to spread that out. So rather than the personal tax team go and access more people, go and hire more people, use other people in the organization. And that's about having communication between different team members, between different management teams, and making sure that happens. Another way, a third tip is look and see if there's some staff that actually would really happy to decrease their hours. You will find that actually there's a lot of people that would like to, for example, work 4 days a week, or perhaps only work school hours, or some people are just not morning people. Perhaps they'd rather work afternoons. Speak to, but that needs to be, the managers need to understand their teams and understand their desires and what they would rather do. Because yes, there are a lot of people that have terrible times at the moment for trying for cost of living, but there are some people that actually are comfortable enough, that are able, that would appreciate a better work-life balance by reducing their hours. The fourth thing is sort of related to the first one about the resourcing plan, but prepare a detailed financial forecast and stress test it. So there is no point, like I said earlier, there's no point making a load of redundancies if you've actually got a new big project coming on and you're going to need more people. So you need to have a look at, you don't want to cut your team right down to the bone and then have a load of you've just had a redundancy cost, because redundancies do cost you money to then have a load of recruitment cost. So, make sure you have a financial forecast that filters into that resourcing plan, and do that. The fifth tip is look at non-staff cost cuts. Are there other areas of your business that you're spending money on that actually you don't really need anymore? So have a look at those different areas, because you want to be cutting the areas that are making money for you. So if it is to do with different software, so it might be old software that you don't really use anymore, cut the license. It may be you've got hybrid working, so you don't need so much office space anymore. Reduce the amount of office space. Hopefully there are some different non-staff cost cuts that you could do. Now, this is a really important one, number 6. Now, this is something that so many people are really tempted to do when they're thinking, oh my God, I'm going into recession. But it's the last thing that you do. And what I would say is what you should do is keep marketing your goods and services, because successful competitors will be spending lots of money on it, and they will be increasing their market share. So buck the trend, increase your sales. If you think about recession, say it's a 3% decrease in GDP, that still means there's 97% still there. How many businesses are really going to go under with 3%? Now, I know in reality, that's an average across the whole country. There are going to be certain sectors, certain regions that are much more impacted. And of course, if you are in one of those, you need to seriously think. But if it is just a general thing, and your sector is still going to have, it could be just more of a modest decrease, that still means there is a lot of work to be had. So you need to be at the forefront of potential clients or customers' minds, and therefore you've got to maximize your marketing. Now, 7th, this is going to be a bit controversial and is a bit sensitive, but if you have staff that are not performing as needed, it's really important to work with them individually to try and improve them, and if necessary, exit them. I see this a lot. A lot of business owners or managers are really nervous of doing that. It's difficult. No one likes to doing it. It's stressful, it's hard work, it's time consuming. And so that's why often they'll use a redundancy round as an easy way to exit those people, because then it avoids the difficult conversations. It's not them, it's you. And well, actually, where in reality it is them, it's just you're using this as an excuse to get rid of them. So I would say, put on your big boy pants and have those difficult conversations. Offer them opportunities for additional training to make them better, or is there a specific reason why they're not performing? But have those conversations. Utilize your HR people or HR methods to try and do that, but exit if it's not going to work. Exit them in a normal fashion through capability or whatever other method, rather than redundancy. Final suggestion, which links into the resourcing plan really, so it coming full circle, is it works out really well if you're a business that fluctuates in busy and not so busy periods, is to have flexible resource. So for example, I used to work in a really, really large engineering company. We actually had a very small base of permanent staff, and then we would take on contractors to resource a lot of the projects. So actually a third of the staff were only permanent. So as soon as then a project either got delayed or stopped or cancelled, you could immediately just reduce all your contract staff. That makes it very flexible, so you're not stuck with a huge amount of overhead when you don't need it. So look in your areas. Either it might be a whole department where you go, oh, look, it really isn't my bag. It may be, say, for example, HR, it's just not your bag. So outsource it to somebody else and then just pay for what you need. Or it might be your accounting, or it might be just general, well, right, I need to have a core amount of people implementing my solutions or my products, but actually I will have a mix of full-time staff and contractors, so that you can flex as to when you've got the work. So that's a lot of different ideas, but all of those things can really help you to prevent redundancies. And redundancies sometimes can't be avoided, especially if there's a sudden shift or change. But ideally, you want to try and avoid them if you can.